Nigel, lay down. Most of you know that a fair amount of research goes into each CommuniTEA video, and sometimes it's more than others. Well, this video required a lot of research, aka reading a lot of small print on my small laptop screen. And look, I was struggling because I had lost my glasses. But then I remembered I just got new glasses from GlassesUSA.com, and they changed my life. I mean, because they're cute and they're functional. And so I got through my research a lot faster than I would have if I did not have these on. Even though these glasses did help, the downside is I was staring at a computer screen for quite a long time. So I decided to go outside and give myself a break, get some fresh air, some sunshine. But I was like, girl, I cannot see. And I was like, girl, you got prescription glasses and prescription sunglasses. So I went back inside, grabbed those, went back. Outstanding. I mean, you can't tell me I'm a fashion icon. I love the shape of these. They're so fun. I think they fit my face super well, and they're fabulous. You know what I love? Isn't she lovely? Thank you so much to GlassesUSA.com for sponsoring today's video. The amazing thing about GlassesUSA.com is they cut out the middleman. So no more spending hundreds of dollars on one pair of glasses. GlassesUSA.com has over 10,000 prescription eyeglasses and sunglasses. They have their own in-house brands, and they have famous designer brands like Ray-Ban and Gucci, all at an amazing discounted price, up to 70% off of their retail prices. You can shop online. They also have a try-on feature, which I'll show you in a minute. Once you receive your glasses, if for some reason you don't like them, they're not the correct prescription, whatever, you have a 14-day, 100% back guarantee. There's so many choices, which can be a bit overwhelming if you're someone like myself, but there's a quiz to try to help you find the right kind of glasses. There's also the option to add on like the blue light blocking lenses on your glasses. And they also have contact lenses, which is amazing. They have like 25% off major contact lens brands. And because Andrew wears contacts, I know those are expensive. So that's another amazing feature. Now, I know you might be like, well, how do I know if I like these glasses if I'm buying them online? Well, that's where the virtual try-on tool comes in handy. I use it and it was super easy and super helpful because although you may look at a frame and like it, once you try it on, sometimes you're like, that's not working for me, or that's not giving me the vibe I thought it was gonna give. And so the virtual try-on to me is a must. And again, super easy and very helpful because I feel like exactly how these looked when I did the virtual try-on is how they look in real life. And I love this pair. I love any kind of funky lens is a little different. And I like that these don't have like the metal wire at the top. They're super cute. And then as you saw before, I also have these amazing chic sunglasses that my sister-in-law said I belong in Paris with these. And I was like, yes, girl. And they have a little purple on them. Oh, so cute. So if you're ready for a new pair of glasses, make sure to check out the links down below in my description box to get yourself a pair of glasses from GlassesUSA.com. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring today's video. Nigel, everyone has been asking where you are. They don't know if you're okay. I don't know if they don't believe me, but they want to know how you been. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Nigel. Nigel. Nigel, tell the people hello. Tell them how you been. So you've been living good. So you've been thriving. Yeah. You doing all right? See, I just don't like to sit in one place because there's other doggies to play with. Okay, now you know he's alive. Y'all can stop harassing me. I promise the dog made it across the ocean. Okay. Hey, hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess, and of course here is Nigel. Welcome to another episode of Book CommuniTEA, where I try to keep you abreast of the goings on and the shenanigans in the bookish community. Obviously today we are talking about the trial that is going on currently, and that is the Department of Justice versus Penguin Random House, or really Bertelsmann. So I've talked in numerous videos about how Penguin Random House has attempted to purchase Simon & Schuster. They are two of the big five publishers in the United States. And of course, a lot of people, including myself, are like, ruh-roh, oh no, this is not good. Of course, the corporations themselves are like, what are you talking about? This is wonderful for publishing, but the government has filed like an antitrust lawsuit against them. So when I first heard of this, I was very excited because they were suing to block this merger. And while I still have a little bit of hope, after looking into the case and seeing kind of what their focus is on, I don't know if I'm as hopeful, and it just points out a lot of the issues and problems within publishing. And I feel like my camera is not straight, so I'm gonna fix that. But this trial started on August 1st. It's supposed to last 3 weeks. As I'm filming this, we're in the 3rd week. I apologize, I meant to have this out sooner, but life, I'm in transition. Please forgive me. Like, this is not my bookshelf behind me. I am currently in Texas with my sister-in-law, brother-in-law at their house. So I'm sorry this is late, but I'm gonna do a recap of week 1. Then I'm gonna do a recap of week 2, and then week 3, if there's a week 4, so on and so forth, but it's supposed to be only 3 weeks. So I'm gonna figure out why my camera is crooked, and then we'll start and get into the mess. Okay, hopefully I've got that straight now. Now, I don't know how this is gonna go. I have 3 rambunctious dogs in here, and I might have to get up and go put them outside, but for now they're in here, but they get a little rowdy. Also, we're gonna pretend we do not see this. We do not see her, okay? We are focusing on these frames and how cute they are. Thank you. So let me get my laptop. I have all my notes on there. I appreciate Publishers Weekly for summarizing the weeks, because I was trying to go through all the tweets of the people who've been live tweeting the trial, and it was getting exhausting, and I was only on day 3 of the 1st week. So these are gonna be highlights. This isn't going to be everything. If you're on Twitter, I'm sure you've seen a lot of authors and people in the bookish community tweeting about this. Also, I will link the Publishers Weekly article that has the summaries down there if you want to read the full detail. But these are the highlights of what has been going on, what has been said, who has testified during the 1st week of this trial. Yeah, Nigel is like too invested in having doggy friends that he does not want to sit here with me while filming. I am so sorry for you. Nigel, will you lay down? Come lay down with Mia. You lay down? Leave her alone now. Nigel be starting stuff. He's ghetto. Okay. I am no lawyer, please. Let me add that as a disclaimer. I have no education, no experience in the law field. So if you do, or you're a lawyer, please add it down below. And then of course, tell me your thoughts on how the trial is going. What do you think is going to be the outcome? I am going to say, actually, I don't even know. I don't even know at this point. Maybe I'll have a better idea before I go into week 2, but I don't know. I think the government has a good chance, but also who knows, because usually money wins. Nigel, please, not between my tripod, please. Nigel. Can you sit? Thank you. Okay, like I said, the trial started on August 1st. So their opening arguments are basically their stances that we heard about before the trial started. The government is saying that the merger would be harmful to authors and publishing overall. And of course, the defense is saying, no, it wouldn't. It would be great. And so the first, Nigel, please. I think he's smelling the lotion on my legs. The first person who is called as a witness is Michael Pisht? I don't know, he's rich. CEO of Hachette, which is one of the big 5 publishers. If you didn't know, the big 5 publishers in the United States are Penguin Random House, Simon & Schuster, Hachette, Macmillan, and HarperCollins. And I know Penguin Random House is the biggest one, but the other 4, I don't know their order of richness. You know what I'm saying? But those are the big 4. Obviously, they have many imprints, and then there's also smaller and some independent publishers, but those are the big 5. So he's the CEO of Hachette. So he was giving really foundational information because it seemed like the judge didn't know a lot about publishing, and I guess just foundational information for the trial. So he was talking about the current landscape of publishing. He explained key terms like book advances, right auctions, how publishers manage their bidding strategies. So basically a publishing 101. So that was not super exciting. So some of his key points that he talked about after that was the competition for book rights. He said that when Hachette loses a book they've bid on, it's very seldom lost to a publisher that's not in the big 5. So if they're going to lose out on a bid, it's usually to the other 4, and it's not going to be any of the smaller publishers. And then he said even more rarely when it comes to a book that has an advance over $250,000. So the government's position is really focusing on how much of the market Penguin Random House would take up if they acquire Simon & Schuster, because they're already the biggest. And then if they acquire Simon & Schuster, they're going to dominate almost half of the publishing market in the United States. And they're really focusing on the big title authors, or the authors that get advances of $250,000 or over. And I feel like I had a quote from someone that said that $100,000 wasn't that big of an advance. Jonathan Karp, who's gonna come in later, he's the CEO of Simon & Schuster, was talking about advances, how they've gone up, and saying that when he got into the business, $100,000 was a lot of money, and now it's a fairly small advance. And a lot of authors would like to talk to you, Jonathan, since you consider six figures a small advance. But we're gonna just go back to day one here, so let's go back. But those books are apparently called the ones that got away, so those big titles that they lose out on. And there is a list of 302 of them that was entered into evidence. So Hachette has lost approximately 124 titles to Penguin Random House, and then they lost less titles to HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, and Macmillan. So he also talked about advantages of Big Five publishers over other publishers. So of course they have large backlists, particularly because the big publishers have acquired so many other publishers over the last decades that now they have a huge backlist, and backlist equals more money because those titles, a lot of them are still selling, and with more money becomes the cushion to take more risk. So big publishers obviously have that advantage. Smaller publishers don't have that cushion. Other advantages are more pull in the media, review attention, marketing, and retail advantages. So this is going to be brought up later, but this CEO is saying that Amazon really is not a competitor right now, especially in acquiring books. Like, yes, they do sell a lot of books and they do have their, indie publishing, but that does not rival the Big Five and their publishing. So he was asked how the merger would affect the industry. And he listed his concerns, including that advances would decline because one of the major houses would now be subsumed, which would decrease the number of bidders for a work. He also thinks that the title count would likely go down. And he also expressed that variety may go down. Like, he expressed that as a concern that as we lose a big publisher, more titles may be more homogenous and have less variety. So then I'm like, oh, good on this dude for I'm glad that he's giving these answers. But then he was asked if the merger doesn't go through, like if Penguin Random House is not allowed to buy Simon & Schuster, basically asking who does he think would come in and try to acquire them, because I don't think this case stops anyone. It just stops this merger. And then he was also asked if Hachette would make a bid for Simon & Schuster, and he said yes. Even though they didn't make a bid in 2020 when this originally happened, he said if Penguin Random House wasn't able to do it, that Hachette would make a bid to buy Simon & Schuster. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? I was rooting for you. I thought you were on our side. And then so he was asked, so you're not concerned with the 5-4 merger from the Big Five going down to the Big Four? And he said, no, he's not concerned. He was never concerned about a Big Five going down to 4. Nigel, he's starting shit. His concern was that Penguin Random House is already the biggest in the industry, and if they subsume Simon & Schuster, they're going to be massive. But if someone like Hachette, who still is a Big Five, but not as big as Penguin Random House, bought Simon & Schuster, it wouldn't be as bad. I still don't like it. 5 is already limited enough. Why go down to 4? Nigel, please, this is not an obstacle course. He's like weaving through my legs, the chair, the tripod. I really apologize for any shakiness. But anyway, I hate it here. Why is everyone so shady? Okay, so anyway, the government, like I said, is focusing on market share because Penguin Random House would dominate nearly half the market because no new publishers. Does your Mustang really need to be this loud, sir? This is a residential neighborhood. Ew. So no new publishers have cracked this inner circle of Big Five publishers in the last 3 decades. So that's not great. All right, now more witnesses. We got Stephen King and Jonathan Karp comes into play. And like I said, Jonathan Karp is the CEO of Simon & Schuster. He's already been on my shit list for many reasons. I mean, if you're a CEO, you're basically on my shit list, especially if you're a rich white man and you're Jonathan Karp. Older videos, I don't even know if I could pinpoint which ones, but he and Stephen King are witnesses. Now, Jonathan had a long ass deposition before this trial, and it's a big old binder, and apparently they had it in the trial, and now he's, you know, being examined, cross-examined, asked questions on the stand. I don't know the legalese terms. So he's trying to downplay the competition, like saying the competition isn't that, it's not as fierce as they're making it seem between Simon & Schuster and Penguin Random House. And he's saying that authors do benefit from competition between the publishers, but that the publishing or the competition between Simon & Schuster and Penguin Random House isn't especially robust, is what he said. But anytime that was mentioned, he kind of tried to be like, oh, it's not a big deal. We don't really compete against each other. But he admits that at the higher end of it, it seems that Simon & Schuster competes mostly against big 5 publishers. We know that, Jonathan. Thank you for that revelatory information. So like I said, they have this big old binder of the deposition, and apparently they kept bringing up things from his deposition that basically are impeaching his testimony. This motherfucker says, you seem to have a lot of examples of me saying things I don't remember. AKA you're lying? That's what it sounds like, Johnny. Ugh, I hate it here. One of the things they brought up was that in 2020, Jonathan Karp sent an email to a author, John Irving, and this is what Jonathan said. He said, I'm pretty sure the Department of Justice wouldn't allow Penguin Random House to buy us, but that's assuming we still have a Department of Justice. There was another email that he sent to a Viacom CBS employee where he said he would prefer Simon & Schuster be purchased by a financial buyer. It would be better for like a financial company to buy them instead of another publisher, that this would be better for employees at Simon & Schuster and the publishing business. But then he still agreed to sell to his highest competition. Like, what is it, Johnny? Which one is it? So during cross-examination, he said one fewer big publisher isn't going to diminish author advances. He doesn't use the term big 5 because it's parochial and ethnocentric. And there are really lots of really good publishers all over the country. I don't think it's all about us. That's not to say there aren't good publishers, but they're talking about competition. Can they compete with you? I think the answer is no, Johnny. So he also said that big advances don't predict whether a book will do well, which is true, because when that publishing paid me hashtag was going on Twitter, and that Kate May book that had like an $800,000 advance, and I had never heard of it before, and then people read it and it was terrible. So that's not necessarily false, but he was kind of trying to downplay the correlation between a big advance and how much the publishing house would put into the book, right? Like, you give this book a $250,000 advance. Are you trying to say that you're not going to really focus marketing dollars on them and really try to push this book? He was really trying to say, oh no, you know, that doesn't necessarily determine what we do with marketing or how well the book does. I may or may not have had to change my battery. Shut up, Sarah, if you're watching. Anywho, what were we talking about? Advances. So he also said that, we were talking about how big advances does not necessarily mean a book will do well. Sometimes they flop, which is true. So now to Stephen King. And it's so funny when they get on the stand, they have to like say, I think you have to like, you know, on the record, say who you are and what you do. So he said, my name is Stephen King. I'm a freelance writer. And for some reason that sends me, because like, I'm a freelance writer. It just makes him sound so like low key and, you know, I've published a couple books independently here or there. Anyway, that just made me laugh. Okay. So obviously King has been out for decades. So he's talking about his first 2 books, Carrie and Salem's Lot, how they were sold to Doubleday. And then he felt like he should stay with Doubleday. And I guess his agent at the time presented like a new contract going forward, like $2 million. At the time, Doubleday was like, ha ha ha, that's funny. They went to another publisher, one who got paperback rights, one who got hardcover rights. And then obviously his books continued to do super well. So that person who turned him down, he said eventually retired or retired soon after. So I think, oh my, who farted? Oh my God. Nigel, was that you? So he was asked why he would testify against his own publisher, because he does have books published under, I think it says Scribner, which is a imprint of Simon & Schuster. And he said, I came because I think consolidation is bad for competition. That's my understanding of the book business. And I've been around it for 50 years. When I started in this business, there were literally hundreds of imprints, and some of them were run by people with extremely idiosyncratic taste, one might say. Those businesses were either subsumed one by one or they ran out of business. I think it becomes tougher and tougher for writers to find enough money to live on. Amen. So the defense attorney said that when, you know, time for cross-examination, he's like, I'd love to sit down and have coffee with you one day, but I have no questions for you. In that article, this person said that they felt like they didn't ask Stephen King any questions because they don't feel like his testimony really is going to have any true like weight or bearing on this case, but I thought that was weird. But I agree. I think that more competition is better, and getting rid of one of the bigger publishers is just gonna lead to just negative effects to the publishing industry. So they also had like a literary agent testify about like the role of agents and bidding for books and everything with big 5 publishers. Of course, they said the most lucrative deals come from big 5 publishers. Having one less would impact their ability to negotiate on behalf of their clients. Limits the choice and number of editors and imprints and publishing houses that would be a good home for clients. Obviously, things we already know. But back to Jonathan Karp. So I think this is on a New Day. He said that, you know, another reason why Penguin Random House buying Simon & Schuster is not a bad thing is because they have similar culture, that they're both wholeheartedly committed to treating authors well. And he said that at Paramount or Viacom CBS that Simon & Schuster is an afterthought, but at Penguin Random House, it would be a main concern. They would be the main event. It's like, okay, that could be true, that Viacom treats you as an afterthought, but there's nobody else that could treat you better? Did you look at other options, Johnny? I don't think so. Then he also, referring to the 2020 email, said that was taken out of context. It was supposed to be funny. It wasn't like I was really coming for the Department of Justice. There's nobody there. Will I ever know peace? I don't know. Anyway, okay. Then the government is like, Jonathan, wouldn't you get a bonus if this merger went through? And he's like, well, I mean, yes, but that's only because it's in the agreement. I didn't ask for it. It didn't say how much this bonus is, but I'm willing to bet. I'm willing to bet it's probably upper hundreds of thousands, probably not millions. You know, it'll probably be something where he just like, I don't know, retires for the rest of his life. I don't know, fuck you, Jonathan. Like, you suck, dude. I hate him. So in his deposition, earlier I said that Amazon was mentioned as a competitor, and so he did mention that in his deposition. So in his deposition, Karp said that Amazon was not competition for titles, but now he's saying that Amazon publishing is underestimated. Like, what is it, dude? Make up your mind. At the same time that he was talking about advances not determined if a book is going to do well, he was talking about marketing budgets and that they're not determined by the advance size. Many authors of best-selling books bolster publishers' marketing and publicity budgets with their own resources. That's a lot of time and money, though, and everyone does not have that. His example, who do you think his example is? I'm going to give you a minute. If you pause, put who you think his example is. His example is Colleen Hoover. He said her books don't require a large portion of Simon & Schuster's resources to support her because she's the queen of TikTok. Sir, one, TikTok is newer. Also, that does not work for everybody. No author can control if their book goes viral on TikTok or not. Like, I feel like that's a crapshoot. And often the books that do go viral on TikTok are usually by white women. Not always. And so how is that fair to everyone else? Like, but he did concede that at auction for the biggest books, there are fewer competitors. So even if we have the big 5 and we have all these smaller publishing houses, that they usually can't compete, and it's really usually the big 5 at the bids for these books. Oh Lord. So they also brought in a statistician who was going through 27 titles that were won at auction by Penguin Random House or Simon & Schuster, but the defense was like, that's just a tiny sliver of books, that's not a good representation. And then, do you see why I broke this up into a week? Because I'm just exhausted from this 1 week and we're not even finished. So anyway, I just love that they use Colleen Hoover and TikTok as an example. And by love, I mean, I hate her. I hate her. So then towards the end of week 1, we have another rich white man. What is happening? Anyway, his name is Marcus Dole. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's the CEO of Penguin Random House. And so he says, so the DOJ's lead attorney has a presentation where it's talking about the authors that receive that $250,000 advance or more, that they are a significant submarket of the book business, and that Penguin Random House and Simon & Schuster merging would lower the advances paid to those authors. His presentation also explains that the top 4% of profitable titles in publishing drive 60% of its profitability, which I think is very interesting. 4% of profitable titles, the top 4, drive 60% of the publisher's profitability, and that higher advances are correlated with more book sales. That's what they said. To that, Marcus was saying that the trade book publishing is the Silicon Valley of media, and we are angel investors in our authors and their dreams, their stories. That's how I call my editors and publishers, angels. He also said that the top 4% of books were books that you don't pay a lot for and they become runaway bestsellers. Like, I'm sure that does happen, but I'm sure that's not always the case also. Like, they're just saying things as if they're blanket statements, but I'm sure that you have a mix of both. Ones you didn't invest a lot in and they blow up and become bestsellers and dominate, and then ones you did invest a lot in and they don't do well, and then ones you did invest a lot in and they do well. Like, come on. He also said something similar to Jonathan Karp, and he said not all books with high advances do well, some of them flop. So like I said before, government's case is focusing on the market share. They're also making it, their case is arguing that publishers are savvy, that they're savvy about their marketing and they benefit from size. But the case of the defense, or the case for the merger, is saying publishing is a crapshoot and that you really just get lucky. They're saying even the biggest publishers are lucky or fortunate when a book they acquire becomes a bestseller. Again, is it either or is it a mix of both? But then also, do you have higher chances of having bestsellers and books do well if you have all this backlist? And backlist equals more money, which equals more cushion. Seems like you have a better chance of having those bestsellers if you are a big 5 publisher. Like, come on. I'm not good at math. I'm not a cardiologist, but I know that your math ain't mathin'. So first, Dole was arguing that Penguin Random House is actually not the biggest publisher. That their numbers, if you look at their numbers internally, that since they merged, Penguin and Random House merged in 2013. So he's saying since the merger, they've lost market share, but somehow that has not hurt their profitability. But the attorney asked if Penguin Random House and Simon & Schuster do merge, would that cement Penguin Random House as a top publisher? And he said yes. So which is it? Are they not the dominant publisher or not? Like, he said they're not the dominant publisher. They lost market share, but that didn't hurt their profitability, and that if they merged with Simon & Schuster, they would be the big dog. Sir, what is going on? So then they talked about imprints, because obviously Penguin Random House has a bunch of imprints, Simon & Schuster does, and they referred back to that 2013 merger and said some imprints did close, but they opened other ones, so they have like a bunch of imprints, and that if this merger happened, that they would not be looking to decrease the amount of imprints between the two companies. And he was referring back to the 2013 merger and saying that merger did not reduce compensation for authors. So Dole is saying that if the merger went through, he would keep the Simon & Schuster imprints together and allow them to bid for manuscripts against imprints of Penguin Random House as if they were an external competitor. But then he said that's his intention, but unfortunately there's no way to make that legally binding. So which is it? You say it's your intention to keep all of those imprints and to let them bid against the Penguin Random House imprints, but then unfortunately there's no way to make that legally binding. Like, what is it? So then they asked if he had good reason to keep that commitment. And he said, my experience in almost 30 years in business and publishing industry is if you grant your partners, which in this case are agents and authors, an additional service, an additional advantage, you are practically unable to take it away. It would undermine that trustful relationship. I think it would damage our business, and agents and authors would not appreciate it. The judge asked what he thought agents and authors would do if he reneged, and he said the agent community would of course argue against it because it was something that we granted them. That is telling me nothing, Mark. It sounds like you want to say these things, that you would keep all these things in place, you would make sure that they're able to bid against books as if they were still an external company, but it's sounding like you probably will just go back on that and be like, I couldn't get it in writing, I'm sorry, but I intended. So I'm like, I don't know. I feel like these big CEOs, of course, what else are they gonna do? But they just are like trying to skirt around questions. They're trying to just like keep talking when they're like, I need a yes or no answer. And they're like, I mean, I guess. They're like, is Penguin Random House one of the most dominant publishers? Well, you know, there's a lot of other, like they're just like talking around it. And they're like, is it or is it not? And they're like, I mean, yes. If we have to be technical about it. It's exasperating. That was the end of week 1. I'm taking a break before I film week 2, but what do you think so far? Who do you think has presented the stronger case? And obviously I haven't given you anything, just some highlights, some rundowns. Let me browse in my earlier notes and see if I missed any of the things. Oh, I think in some of the tweets, when I was still looking at the tweets, that someone who, I think this might be a literary agent, was talking about advances and how they went from thirds to fourths, where I thought advances were in 2, and then apparently they've been in 3 and now in fourths, which is crazy. Pandy, also says 20% of the authors earn out the advance, which can take 3 to 4 years to happen, forcing authors to teach, work in coffee shops, do other jobs, etc. I mean, I feel like that's a majority of authors. A lot of people write in addition to another job. Some other notes from the tweets were that the government trying to diminish the role of indie publishers, but the defense is really trying to put indie publishers together as like this big, like a 6th big publisher, like all together. They're a big 6 publisher. I didn't see anywhere, I don't know, I could have missed it, if they compared the numbers. So like if you added up all of the publishers that were not the big 5, how much would their profitability compare to any of the big 5 publishers? Like I would love to see that number. But it's just like, it's not the same. Even they did point out, like the defense did point out some big authors who had a book published with a smaller publisher, like the author who wrote the Wimpy Kid series, and they decided to stick with that publisher, and that's great. That doesn't always happen. Or a smaller publisher always doesn't have an author whose book reaches something like that and gets turned into a long-going series and gets a movie deal, I think it was a movie deal. Like that does just not always happen. Like on both sides, you can't just use like these one instances and say this is always how it goes. So that is overall the notes I have from week 1 of the trial. So I will be back soon with week 2. This is like, as much as I hate that this is going on during this transitional period in my life, it's also good because I'm not really reading. So I really don't have much content to make around reading. Like I'm reading really slowly. So this will be my content for the next, who knows how long. So I'm really interested to see if it does wrap up after this week, and then how long like a decision will take. I'm really nervous. Anyway, please tell me all your thoughts, and of course if you have any like legal experience, expertise, and want to explain anything or add to the conversation, anything I missed, please leave it down below. As usual, keep it cute, be respectful. Again, thank you to Glasses USA for sponsoring today's video. Please check out the link down in the description, and as well I will have links to the Publisher Weekly article that has their articles linked within it. Always you can find me on the internet, that's linked down below. Join my Patreon if you want to support the channel, all that good stuff. So thank you so much for watching. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, and sunscreen, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.